So welcome again, everybody. My name is Nick Martinez. For those of you who are brand new, I live out in Minnesota. I've been drinking and sharing ketones now for the last 4.5 years. And when I was introduced to this, I was a full-time airline pilot and I was tired. I would come home from trips. I would remember like literally coming home, falling asleep on the floor while trying to watch my 2-year-old while my wife worked full-time. I'd been doing short overnights for the previous 7 years and my body was just pretty much wrecked, but that was life. It was good. There was really nothing wrong with it, but it was my status quo. In walks ketones, keto OS, and before I knew it, I went from being a tired pilot who had no energy to play with his daughter to coming home from 4-day trips, chasing her around the house to the point where when my wife would get home from work, she'd see me down on the floor playing with the kid instead of trying to catch a nap with a big smile on my face. And she's asking me like, what's gotten into you? So needless to say, I got really excited about this. I got excited about sharing that story with people and about introducing people to this conversation of ketones. And here's what's amazing. While I started to share this with others, more and more people started to have great experiences. And what's interesting is not everybody had my exact scenario or my exact experience. Some people lost a crazy amount of fat. Other people went from being super like crabby and unhappy to having a smile on their face to actually being like fully present and excited. Other people went from not being able to focus to being able to focus, and it was really powerful. So tonight with this call, our goal is to really walk you through the process of sharing your story. And in order to do so, I've got Mitch Newman on. And one of the things, though, that I really want you to think about as we're going through this is we are paid storytellers. As a promoter with Pruvit, Pruvit rewards you for telling stories, right? You've heard the old adage, stories sell, facts tell. Well, I like to say stories give people a glimpse into what's possible. They give people inspiration for something that can happen in their life as they start drinking this. And what you're going to find is while you may know what your story is, but sometimes it's hard to articulate it in a short period of time. Sometimes you're stuck all of a sudden 25 minutes later, you're still talking about how you received your first serving of Keto Nat and you haven't even gotten to like why it's great. Or you find that you want to say so much to everybody, either on social media, in a message, or in person, that you're finding people aren't hearing you, right? They're not hearing what you're saying, or they're not picking it all up. So our goal with this Zoom tonight is to teach you a framework that is so powerful that if you learn to master it, and then if you learn to teach it to people, share it with your customers how to share their impact with ketones, share with your promoters how to better post on social media and share their story. It's a really, really powerful framework. So Mitch Newman, what's happening, buddy?
Hey, Nick. What's the story of the day for you?
Well, I don't know. Guys, if you're not familiar or you haven't met Mitch yet, he's super awesome. He's part of all of our support team. He's actually my personal sponsor, lives out in California, and he's become masterful at helping people share their story, helping people better articulate and share what ketones have done for them. So Mitch, tell me why you're excited about this Zoom tonight and why you're here with us.
Well, I'll tell you, Nick, you said something earlier. You said we're paid storytellers, right? We're paid storytellers. And I'm here to say that for most of us, if not all of us on here, we've been paying for the stories that we've been telling ourselves, about ourselves and others for many, many years. So there's an interesting aspect to all of this, and why this call and this Zoom is so important, because we want to flip that switch. We want to get to that place where we start to see how the stories that in the past that we've been telling ourselves really haven't served us. And now that we're experiencing what we're experiencing, utilizing this product, we're now going to flip the switch, and we're going to take it and we're going to take the stories, and rather than creating stories that prevent us, we're going to create a story that propels us. Is anybody else up for that? You can just give me a little wave. Can't see everybody. Nick, it's called a wave, Nick. I didn't ask you to whistle. It's a wave. Okay. So as Nick said, my name is Mitch Newman. I live in Los Angeles, California. This is July 14th of next month. Will be 5 years in Pruvit. I go back to the olden days when it first got started, when it was a little VIP program with no performance rewards program. It was just a whole bunch of people having amazing experiences and telling people. We had one video at the time that we would talk about, but what we did have, we had this level of energy and enthusiasm around one thing. And people always ask me, you've been part of a build out of a substantial organization over the past 5 years. What would you say started it for you, and also then was able to create a launch pad for so many people? And I said, you know what? If it comes down to one thing, this is what I'll take with me. I told my story to as many people that were willing to listen without regard for anything. I didn't filter my story. I didn't think about who I was talking to. I told it with energy. I told it with excitement. I told it with enthusiasm. I was relatable in what I was saying. And many people who we didn't have a lot of samples at the time like we do now would say, gosh, Mitch, on your enthusiasm alone and hearing your story, I need to try it. So if there's one thing that you can take from this is the power of your story. It is everything. Here's why. When you tell your story, you are telling some part of someone else's story. Think about that. You're telling some part of someone else's story, okay? And what separates you, for those people who would say to me and still say to me, I was talking to somebody the other day, they go, well, I'm just not really good at sales. And I go, thank God, because we don't sell here. We share here. What do we share? We share stories. What separates you from sales is your story, because it's real and it's authentic. And the same thoughts that you have when your head hits the pillow at night are the same thoughts that I have and everybody else has, that somehow we think are exclusive. They're not mutually exclusive, folks. So the power of your story is going to be everything. Okay, when you're telling your story, what you're addressing are people's fears and failures. They fear that they're never going to feel better again. They think they're failing at being a parent because they're not present enough for their kids. So you're actually being able to turn it ever so slightly. So when you tell your story, and for those of you who are brand new, you will find this out time and time again. For those of you who've been here a while, you've heard it, I'm sure. You'll tell your story to somebody and somebody go, oh my God, you sound like my husband. Oh my God, you sound like my wife. Oh my God, you sound like me. We've all heard that. Nick's smiling. Thousands of times he's heard that. Why? Because what we're doing is we're talking about things that affect everybody. We're talking about people who are stressed out. We're all stressed out. 100 years ago, if you reached out to somebody and you tried to connect with somebody, you wrote them a letter and you maybe heard back in 2 weeks. Now you send a text message to somebody and in 5 minutes you're in fight or flight because they haven't texted you back. I mean, just think about the amount of stress that we're under. So we're all stressed out. We're all trying to get all trying to be better business partners, trying to be more successful. And we're draining our bodies. We're literally draining our bodies. So the story of when you come back, and not just come back, because people say, God, if I could just get back to where I was. This company is about better, folks. And I'm telling you, and if you haven't experienced it yet, you will. You won't get your life back. You will get a better one. So if you're selling anything to somebody, you're selling better. You're giving them an opportunity to see, right? You're giving them the opportunity to see what's possible that they've given up on. They've given up on it. And why do I know that they've given up on it? Because I gave up on it. I gave up on it. I've been a coach for 20 years. I would spend hours in the morning propped up on a pot of coffee, telling people what they could accomplish. And I didn't have the strength or the wherewithal to do it for myself in the afternoon. And guess what ran through my head was the antithesis of what I share with other people. Well, I guess this is probably as good as it's going to get. Maybe this is just what happens as you get older. So I started buying into those stories. So we want to create stories here that propel us forward, not prevent us. We've done plenty of that in our lifetimes. Most people have done plenty. Oh, I can't do that because that's a story. I don't do Facebook. I don't go live on Facebook. That's a story. I'm not good at sales. Another story. So we've got all these stories that we've created that have held us back. And now we get to drink ketones, We get to put a better fuel in our body, and all of a sudden we get to wake up, feel better, model what better looks like for people, and then all of a sudden people go, God, what are you doing? You just look different. Something's going on. So you're addressing people's fears and failures, and you're giving them hope again. You're becoming a beacon, a light, a lighthouse in the fog that says, you know what? If I got this back, you can too. So the whole point of our telling a story is you want to be relatable. It's very, very important, that relatability, because our stories are the same. Nick and I have traveled all around the country and outside of the country, and no matter where we go, people are people. They're telling the same stories. They're exhausted. They don't have time for things. There's not enough hours in the day. They don't sleep at night. And all of a sudden now you're drinking this product, and all of a sudden all of those things that were challenging to you, that are still challenging to them, right? You're going, and they're going, wait, you sleep through the night? Oh, really? So you have energy all day? They're asking you to confirm back because they don't believe it's possible. So we become that possibility. So you're being very, very authentic in the transmission of your story. You're telling them the truth. You're telling them the truth, and your willingness to be vulnerable. I shared today on a call. We're all about storytelling, and I shared some things that were super, super vulnerable for me as a man to be able to share. But you know what? I want people to understand the truth, because what I've learned over 20 years of coaching people, and please take this to heart, is the thoughts that you have that you somehow think are exclusive to you are not. So that people as possible will to experience that. All of a sudden, not only does the light bulb go off for you, but the light bulb goes off for them. So our story is told in basically 3 components, right? It's basically, what was life like before drinking ketones, before putting a superior fuel source in your body. So the focus when you're talking about that is you're painting a picture for somebody. You're painting their picture or some part of their picture right now. So you're establishing that relatability and credibility right now in this moment. So they're able to be pulled in, and now you have their attention. So before I started drinking ketones, I was a physically present dad who was mentally and emotionally absent from my wife and my daughters. That's a powerful, powerful statement. So understanding that and owning it is very, very important. It's very, very critical to understanding that you're painting that picture in the beginning of where you were. If you weren't sleeping, you weren't sleeping. If you didn't have energy to play with your kids, you didn't have energy to play with your kids. Own it. I was talking my kids out of going to the park. I was making stories up so that I didn't have to take my kids to the park because I didn't have the energy to do so. How many people have told a lie or a semi-white lie to their kids to get out of doing something that they didn't have the energy or strength to do? You can raise your hand, you can nod, Nick can whistle, whatever you want to do. But we've all been there. So it may seem embarrassing to you because it's not how you want to show up, but that's what's challenging for other people. So that first part of the story, before I was drinking ketones, this is what my life looked like, is painting a picture of where your life was, which meets them right where they are now. So now you have their attention. Now you have their awareness. Now you have their participation. The second component is, what has life been like since you started drinking ketones? How has that shifted? What does life look like now? So I became not just physically present, I became mentally and emotionally present. I was no longer talking my kids out of going to the park. I was challenging them to go with me other places on top of going to the park. They couldn't keep up with me. So all the things, you have to start with the reality of where things were. You have to paint that picture because that's where they are right now. Some part of them. Now, they may say, oh my God, you sound exactly like me, or they're going to zero in on some piece. Doesn't matter. So at that point, you want to tell all the things that you once were not able to do or weren't doing, all of your fears, all of your failures, and how you've come back to life and how you're now participating in life. Make sense so far? Give me a little wave. Awesome. So now the question is, where do you want to go from here? You may be dealing with somebody who just wants to be a customer, wants to be able to get their life back, wants to have a more fulfilling life. You may be talking to somebody who ultimately wants to do what you're doing, which is sharing this conversation with other people and being compensated as a result of doing so. So now it becomes painting the picture about what it is that you want to contribute moving forward. What is your mission? What is your vision moving forward? And being really, really direct and sincere with what it is that you want to do. So if your commitment moving forward and your desire moving forward and what you see for the future is you want to build franchises all around the planet because you know just how many millions of people are stressed out all across the planet and you want to be part of that healing, then you tell that to that person. If you want to tell that person that you're looking to, heal people within your community or within your church or whatever specifics, then you let them know that that's what it is that you want to be a part of. If you want to help millions of people, you tell them you want to help millions of people. And then you can add in, and I don't know millions of people, and I need assistance. I need support. So ultimately, I'm looking for other people who feel the way I feel, who want what I want, who can assist me in reaching all of those millions of people. So you're painting a picture of what the future can look like. So you're meeting them where they are in the past, in your past, but they're present. You're bringing them forward and showing them what's possible. And then you're letting them know where you're going. And if you'd like to go with other people, if you'd like to take other people with you, if you want to be a part of it, whatever it is, people get excited because here's what's happened. When you don't feel well physically, mentally, and emotionally, the future looks bleak. You lose sight of your own future. Would you agree? You lose sight of it. So you're now painting a picture and you're reminding yourself why you're doing it, but you're also planting a seed. And that seed is about, wow, maybe I could do something like that. Maybe I could take that project that I've had on my shelf and feel better from this and be able to then help other people. Might have nothing to do with Pruvit. See, the conversation we're talking about is about the power of putting a superior fuel source in your body and what you get to do. The fact of the matter that you get to live on point, on purpose, with greater intention, impact more people, be a better mom, be a better dad, be a better friend, be a better business partner. Whatever that is, contribute at a higher level. That's what Pruvit is ultimately as a community. So it's before drinking ketones as a fuel source, my life looked like this. Don't hesitate to tell a couple quick stories within that. If you're talking to a mom and you see that she's stressed out and the kids are, freaking out and she's losing it, you talk about that like you were once there. I totally relate to where you're at and what you're dealing with. And you take them on a journey, and that journey is called Better. That story, your story, is the key to transcending this concept of I'm not in sales, because you're not, and propelling you forward so that you can help more people. There's an actress, I'm blanking on her name, but she said something to the effect, and I'm paraphrasing here, she said, the audience doesn't come to see me, they come to see a part of themselves. They come to see a part of themselves. Your story gives that person a window and an opportunity to see themselves in you. Have fun with it, and take that part of it, that process seriously, because that person, just like maybe perhaps where you were, perhaps absolutely where I was, is seconds away from giving up hope that things can get better. And you and me and all of us can get to be that beacon for people. And that's what we've been able to do. So we collect these stories, we're paid storytellers, and we start telling stories that actually serve us and other people versus the stories of our past, which didn't serve anything but the status quo. Nikki, that's what I got, buddy.
I love it. I love it. I love it. So thank you, Mitch, for sharing that. Hopefully you guys caught that framework. He really laid it out for us. I wrote down before, better, and most excited. So there's 3 parts to your story. It's before drinking ketones. You heard me kind of start this call by sharing my story. Before I drank ketones, I used to come home from a trip and I'd lay on the floor while watching my 2-year-old from my napping position. After I started drinking ketones, within a couple of weeks, I was coming home from trips and I was chasing her around the house. That is a story. That's the better portion. And then the last part, what I'm most excited about is really sharing this with other people and watching their benefits unfold. So what's neat about this is you can create your story and you can share it in 60 seconds. You can share it in 5 minutes. You can share it in the amount of time that you have so that it's appropriate for the situation. And given what Mitch just shared with you, depending on who you're speaking to, you can share different pieces of your story. So I want you to write down a list of these benefits. I'm going to give you a handful of benefits. Energy, focus, fat loss, mood, sleep, and even fitness. And I want you to think even digestion you can share there, or clear skin if you want to add that too. And I want you can, as kind of your homework, is look at each of those and think what kind of story has occurred in your life as a result. You may have experienced all of them. You might have one of them. You might have 3, 4, 5. It's probably somewhere between like 3 and 5 of those benefits. But each of those benefits creates a story and it serves a different maybe audience or a different group of people that you're talking to. One of the things I would caution you from doing is just saying, before ketones, I had no energy. I couldn't focus. I was a fat slob. I was really crabby, didn't sleep, and I never went to the gym. Since drinking ketones, I now have amazing energy. I can focus all the time. I've lost a ton of fat. I'm happy all the time. I sleep like a baby, and my fitness is through the roof. People are not, like, they don't hear that. That doesn't resonate. You're not actually telling a story in that situation. You're just listing words, right? So what I would encourage you to do is ask yourself the question, where in my life did energy not show up before? How in my life is energy showing up today? And it's drilling down into each of those categories to find out. So mood, how did my mood show up poorly before drinking ketones? Write that down. Find a situation, find a story, find an experience. Mitch told the story of his children. He was talking them out of going to the park. People can relate to that. When you start to share a story or an experience, people are relating to that specific thing, not just the word energy, not just the word I'm in a better mood now. What does that actually mean in your life? How did, like, has your husband commented, oh, you're so much easier to be around, or whatever that is. And then excited about, start to write down a few different ideas of things that you're excited about. Why did you join this business? Why are you a promoter with us? Why are you sharing this with other people? Write down what you're excited about and start to articulate that. And I want to actually hear a couple of your stories, and we're looking for a couple people that might want some coaching on their story, might want to have a little bit of fun with us, i.e. be our guinea pig. So if you're interested in that, comment me in the chat if anybody's up for it. Otherwise, I'll just have to pick somebody at random, which will be more fun.
Nick, let me add one thing, because I think this will help people to drill down to the story. The most powerful stories that I've ever told or ever heard were stories and situations that either I experienced or other people experienced, where not only was something hurtful to them, but it was also impacting other people in a hurtful way. So when you think about those two components, so I was not being the father I wanted to be, but I was also then not present for my kids to take them to the park. So when you have those two components, those are the ones that are going to really tug on people's heartstrings. So just wanted to share that.
Awesome. The other piece is in the benefits that I mentioned, none of those say words like depression, anxiety, inflammation, diabetes, Alzheimer's. Insert any sort of disease or ailment that you can treat or diagnose by a doctor. We are not doctors, at least I am not, and I don't think most of you are. And this is not medicine. This is a supplement. So what's interesting is we have some amazing, like almost miraculous stories of people's lives who have completely shifted as a result of this technology. However, they usually want to share, oh my gosh, I had XYZ. I had big toe-itis, and now I no longer have like my big toe, or I used to have 6 toes. Now I only have 5 toes because I drank ketones. Some of them are that ridiculous. And it's powerful for you if that's your story. But here's what I want to do is help you open your mind to the idea that while you may have that challenge, there's a very small percentage of the world that probably has that challenge also. And everybody that has that challenge also probably could use more energy, could use more focus, could use more fat loss, could use all of the benefits. And they're probably more likely to be excited about drinking something thinking, hey, this is going to help me feel better than it's going to cause me no longer to have 6 toes. Because they've been to the doctor, they've talked to every specialist and tried to fix their ailment, and they haven't been able to. So now they're just randomly going to see that this has worked for you and think this is some potion or magic snake oil. Generally, it doesn't work that way. So if you want to impact more people, articulating your story using this framework and using these benefits is the way that you can actually reach the largest group of people rather than just a small cross section. So let's see, Diana, what's happening? You want to come off mute? I think she's going to share her story with us. Diana, why don't you share with us just your name, where you're from, and tell us your brief 60-second story. Would love to hear it.
60 seconds. Okay. Diana, I'm in Orange, California. 60 seconds. A little over a year ago, diagnosed with GERD after 3 trips to urgent care. And I know we're not doing diagnosis, but in that whole story, I'm able to exercise, have energy, no brain fog, just to have my gut reset, because your gut gets so destroyed, living that way for so long. And it's just, I don't want to say healing, but it is. It's just been incredible for my energy, my mood. I'm not running like I was last year. I was training for Ragnar and it was canceled this year, but I'm walking up. I'm up to 5 miles, and then I'll start running again. And, so everything is changing.
Awesome.
Shifting.
Thanks for sharing. Are you open to some coaching?
Of course.
Awesome. So
always.
Tell me, you started to go down a path of, hey, a year ago you obviously have had some medical challenges, and now ketones have kind of helped to get you through those. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Awesome. So that's really cool. Now, as a result of those challenges, tell me what life was like before you started drinking ketones. When you woke up, when you started your day.
Not a lot of energy, not getting up at 5:36 to go run 3 or 5 miles. Not a whole bunch of mental clarity, or it wasn't the mental clarity that I'm experiencing now.
Okay. So what did that look like either when you were with your family or at your job?
I just didn't want to be there. I didn't even want to get up. I was like, I could sleep longer.
So did you hit the snooze button a lot?
Yeah, it was rough.
Okay. And you're definitely not a morning person?
I am a morning person. That's why I was like, okay, this has got to go, because I'm usually up and doing my workout.
Awesome. So here's what I'm hearing, and you can correct me if I'm wrong or tell me if this is accurate. But if I were in your shoes, I'd be saying, Oh my gosh, just a few short months ago, I would struggle to get out of bed. I didn't have energy. In fact, I'd hit the snooze button a million times. And even when I got up, I didn't want to be up. I wanted to be back asleep. I used to, once upon a time when I was younger, used to love running and doing things, and I just didn't have the drive for it anymore, right? And one day I was introduced to ketones through a friend or through this guy I saw on Facebook, and got really excited about the possibility of maybe having that back. And I was super skeptical, but I started to drink it. And believe it or not, I started waking up. I didn't have to hit the snooze button. In fact, now I get up without any trouble. I'm actually becoming the morning person that I once was 5 years ago. And I'm running, like I'm getting out and I'm moving my body again. I'm feeling amazing. I haven't felt this great in years.
Sounds good.
So you see the difference? You guys kind of feel the energy difference? Like there's a story. Now you can do that exact same thing with the focus. You just have to determine, what are you focused? Like, what are you able to do now as a result of focus? How does that show up in your day versus before, right? Because if you think about how it was before, like, were you maybe super productive at work or not productive, or would you not get stuff done? Were you constantly like going back to the same thing over and over? Tell me what that might be like.
Yes, exactly. It's like mental fuzziness. You read an email or you're working on, I do insurance. So you might be doing something and you're like, wait a minute, did I do that? Or did I not do that? So you're questioning yourself and just not your normal self. You're not being your normal self, how you usually are, you know? Yeah.
And now that doesn't exist?
No, not at all.
Awesome. So, I mean, right there, that's also a fantastic way to share your story. This is powerful. Thank you for doing this with us. So if I'm sharing that, Diana, what I'm saying is, oh my gosh, prior to drinking ketones, I was to the point in my job, I do insurance, where I'd be going through emails and I couldn't remember which emails I went through. And it wasn't because I didn't have a memory, it's just because I wasn't focused as I was working. I don't know if you can relate to that or not, but I started drinking ketones, and it's amazing. Now I'm actually pounding through emails without even getting distracted. I'm able to just get them done because I'm laser focused, and I'm way more productive at my job than I was before. I'm so excited now because I'm actually making more sales in the insurance world. My productivity has gone way up, and this is just the beginning. Right there is like, good. I think you'd be speaking to any employee that has a 9-to-5 job that works in a cubicle that's trying to get stuff done. Y'all agree with that? So is that helpful, guys? Yes. Awesome.
Very helpful. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Diana, for letting us utilize your story. Do you guys want to do one more? I think we got time for one more. Who's open to one more? Or who's willing to be our test dummy? You don't have to be a dummy. Let's see. Oh, come on. No one? No one?
Yeah, I'll do it.
All right.
Hey, I'm Terry from Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Before drinking ketones, I was a fat, angry, tired little jerk. Had a bad attitude, bad outlook on life. I had a size 40 waist. I want to lose some body fat. Since drinking ketones, I see life much differently. I have a better attitude. I'm far more positive. I treat people so much better now. I'm actually in a good mood all the time, and I have energy from sun up to sundown, and I look forward to blessing others with the same life-changing transformation.
Awesome. I mean, you painted a picture. I might use maybe less direct words like fat, tired jerk, but if that describes how you were, then you might lose somebody at that. You could say, I was, before drinking ketones, I was the guy that no one liked, right? I was rude when I walked into a room. I wasn't super kind to people. I was super overweight, and at the end of the day, I was just unhappy. I mean, is that an accurate description?
Oh, yeah.
And people could probably relate to that. And then, sometimes it's how do you tell your story in a positive light? without, withholding the details or the information from it. So now I'm grateful because I wake up every morning with a smile on my face. My kids think I'm nicer. My wife is actually much happier to be married to me. And people around me are just like, who is this Terry guy? I don't even remember him. A side effect is the fact that I've actually dropped a decent amount of fat as a result. And, fat loss is such a cool thing with this, guys, because I look at it as a side effect, and you can kind of blindside people with fat loss. Sometimes we shy away from sharing our weight loss or fat loss stories because we've been told, oh, it's not a weight loss product. But guess what? That inspires people to do something. That inspires people to make change. So I don't want you to push that under the rug. I'd rather you use it at the very end of your story to slap them in the face and say, oh my gosh, I need ketones, right? So it's sharing that story. And then at the very end, it's like, oh yeah. And now instead of a 40 waist, I'm a 34, I'm a whatever. That's just been one of the side benefits. Because especially if you've got a fat loss story of 30 pounds, 50 pounds, 100 pounds, when you drop that at the end, people are just like, oh, really? No way. You're like, oh yeah, you've got to see my pictures. Check this out. And that puts a visual to that part of the story, and they're just like, holy smokes, that's amazing. Any thoughts on that, Mitch, with the weight loss?
Yeah, I was just thinking that one of the things where people, that separates what we do and what we have here from what people would try and label this or attempt to label this as a diet is the fact that you can say that I dropped 30, pounds of fat, and I've been able to maintain this longer than I've ever been able to maintain it in the past. So the idea that it's not just I lost the weight, because most people associate the diet with I lost 30, I gained 50. I lost 20, I gained 40. There's this kind of an up and down. So painting the picture that you've been able to maintain for whatever period of time, or that you're not tempted to go back and do what, participate in old behavior and patterns, is stuff that's going to really sit inside somebody and go, oh, wow, like that's different. That separates, that makes your weight or fat loss story powerful, but also very different that somebody can't label this and into that category of diet.
Awesome. I love it. The being able to maintain it, we have so many people in our community that have lost 100 pounds plus. What's really cool is talking to them a year later, 2 years later, 3 years later, and they're still down that weight. They haven't gained it. All right, we're going to do one more. I see Cameron just said she wouldn't mind. Cameron, come off mute, share your story with us. What have ketones done for you? You have to unmute yourself.
Okay, had to take myself off of mute.
There we go. There we go.
Okay, I'm not a very good public speaker, so
well, that's the story you're telling yourself. Mitch will take care of that.
He'll tell me. Okay. The irony is I'm a speech language pathologist, so I speak for a living. Okay, so a big part of my story, I lost who I was. My body had changed over the years. I have 3 kids, but ironically, it wasn't because of weight gain during my pregnancies or after I had kids, because I lost the weight very quickly. But for me, a huge benefit has been the digestion. I lived with IBSD my entire life since I was 16, and it ruled where I went and when I went anywhere. But it also kind of changed with stress levels. So with work and with home life and everything else going on, I was not who I used to be, and I was losing sense of what my purpose was. And I think after drinking ketones, my digestion is amazing. I don't have to fear going out, and I don't have to fear about not having energy to go out. And of course, with my job, I have to have a lot of mental clarity, and this gives me the energy, and I sleep amazing at night. And those have been really the deal breakers for me. The fat loss was an added benefit, but I felt like me again in my own skin, and I hadn't had that for a long time. So ketones have definitely changed who I am, and kind of for the better.
Awesome. I love it. Mitch, you want to chime in, or do you want me to go for it?
Well, no, I think the like I'm looking at the real subtext of what that story was about. And that story was about, like, I got to a point where I did not recognize myself. I was no longer connected to who I'd always imagined myself or saw myself to be. People can relate to that. People lose sight of themselves at all points. So you're telling the story. So you're setting that up in the and then everything is about your journey to reconnecting with yourself. And what a great thing is, and your desire is to be able to move forward and to build this is, and I recognize just how many people are like me, and I want to be that beacon of hope and inspire other people who are in my position to show them that they can live a better life. So that really takes the arc of the story to, I didn't recognize myself. I now not only recognize myself, I've, in essence, fallen back in love with myself. I really have a sense of who I am and where I'm going. And my commitment moving forward, my desire moving forward, the contribution I want to make moving forward is to be able to help other men and women, or other women in a similar situation who maybe have given up hope just as I once did, to be able to be that beacon of light and opportunity for them. Now all of a sudden, boom, now all of a sudden people are glued to your story. Often it's our story is when you tell it with the energy and enthusiasm and excitement, a lot of times people are not always necessarily even hearing what it is that you're saying, but they're just reading your energy. And they're just going, I want what she has. I don't know what that is. I want that too. Like, how do I get that? So making sure when you're telling your story that it has energy and enthusiasm and excitement, and people can really, really feel how genuine and authentic you are, and that there's a level, this is a big word here, there's a tremendous level of certainty in the story that you're telling people. They really genuinely believe that what you're telling them is not only something that happened to you, but they're starting to hook into the fact that maybe this is possible for me too. So I love that, because that's a really raw experience of not recognizing yourself and growing to that. So I love it.
I love it. Well,
Thank you.
thank you for sharing. Appreciate that. Takes guts to do. I saw one more person comment, so let's do one more just because these are fun. Debra, where are you at? You can come off mute and share with us your story. Share your name, where you're from too.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Debra Brundage. I'm from Buxton, Maine. And before ketones, I was always very active and thought I had a good zest for life. And then I had a tragedy happen in my life where I had lost my daughter to a car accident. And I always looked good on the outside, but I was very broken on the inside. And I basically was just going through the motions of everyday life and what you were supposed to do. And then I found Ashley, and I tried it for 5 days and didn't think much of it. And then months later, I jumped on board with the 10-day challenge. And I was so blown away by the passion that started radiating inside of me. And it basically, before drinking ketones, I had a zest for life, lost it in a tragedy, and kept thinking every day it was going to get better, it was going to get better, it was going to get better. When is this going to get better? And drinking ketones has literally changed my energy level, my thought process. My mood is just, I don't even remember the last time I've even been upset or mad about anything. And it's just been amazing. And it's just basically given me back passion for everyday life. I'm getting things done. I'm excited about sharing ketones with everyone. I want everyone to drink ketones because everybody needs to feel as good as I feel. And I believe that I've never had anything this easy in my life. I did lose 40 pounds with this, and I've maintained it. I've maintained it through this whole pandemic. I didn't gain the 10 or 15 pound fluff that everybody's gained. and I owe that all to drinking ketones. And the science behind it is just, I've always been kind of a science person when it came to a product. It really I had to really believe in it. And I would never promote anything I didn't believe in. And this is like, I've never had anything like this, ever, 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 ever. And now my husband, who used to tell me go sell my Amway, is drinking it twice a day, faithfully. And he said, I think I'm addicted. So it can definitely bring joy and passion back to your life. I miss my daughter every single day. It will never bring her back, but ketones has brought back my passion. That's it. I can't hear you.
There we go. Debra and I spent some time on the phone a week and a half ago, and you actually applied everything that we talked about. So that was.
Did I?
I only have one thought, but I'll let Mitch go first.
Okay.
You know, what really came across to me is, and this is super important because, you know, whether you're here for, you're here 5 minutes or here 5 years, you'll find that not everybody you're talking to is ready for better. And it really, in you telling your story, it really came across to me. I think will come across to other people that you were ready to feel better.
I was.
That you could step into that place. And that is like that. I mean, I was in with your story. I was right there with you because that to me is a super, super powerful component of owning that I was final. I was sick and tired of being sick and tired, and I was ready to feel better.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, and also utilizing and laying down in the front that, you know, that you like to study the science and you like to know this, and that you can bring back at the end of your story.
Mm-hmm.
Because that level of certainty and conviction around the science makes it all the more comfortable for you to want to share this moving forward. Your belief in the product, your belief in the science, all of that. So that level of certainty at the end, I think also will inspire a lot of people to say, well, tell me more, or how do I find out more? That's
awesome. Good. Thank you.
My only 2 cents, and honestly, guys, this is just nitpicking because I can, because it was such a powerful story. And as you're as you're sharing, what you want to do is share pieces of information that are valuable to others, right? That are going to inspire them, or they're going to see a piece of themselves in there. Some of the details don't do that, right? So if I told you, hey, I got introduced to this by my friend Mitch, and he called me, and this is what he said to me, and this is the conversation we had, and then he sent me a trial pack. Well, the first one, this is my experiments. The second one, that doesn't necessarily bring them along your story. Okay. So you said, oh, I heard about this from Ashley. I got a 5-day and I didn't much think of it. And then, you know, a little bit later. So this is me being nitpicky again.
No, please do. Please do.
That portion you could just pull out, and you would have just had the same impact with the entire story. It would have just taken a little bit less time. So saying, oh, hey, I got started with a 10-day challenge, and really then continue and how that impacted you. So a lot of us have this tendency when we're nervous or when we're talking to go into details of something because it's familiar or we can see it, even though that's not the piece that may resonate with others. So,
can I say something?
Yeah.
Yeah. When I did that 10-day challenge, I was on the 5th day, and I think I told you this was, I had recently taken up drag racing, and I was on the 5th day of drinking the 10-day challenge, and I could not believe the amount of energy and my adrenaline and my passion that day for racing and just for life just like blew up. And I messaged her on Messenger because I had no internet connection, and I sent her my information and said, please order me another box because I cannot run out of this. If this is how I'm going to feel, I cannot run out of this. Awesome. And that was amazing. So
perfect.
I get what you're saying, though. I'll take that part out. Thank you so much.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much, Debra. So here's what's neat. Like, Debra's got enough passion and enthusiasm. You guys just hear her talking, and it's like, all right, give me more of this stuff, right? So do people hear the color of your voice when you're sharing about your story? with that, a lot of times, and Deborah, this is one thing for you, is we can have so many pieces, or it can be so big, we want to share it all. Sometimes it's leaving things out, which creates the more power, right? Because again, if it gets into so many different details, sometimes it starts to get lost on people. Whereas you had me at, like, I got my life back, or, you know, that kind of thing. So just think about that. And then as far as sharing your story in Facebook or in a live or in person, you want to think, all right, I want a 60-second or less story that I can share with a stranger when I'm at the grocery store. Oh, what are you drinking? Ketones? What is that? Oh my gosh, before drinking this, I was blah, blah, blah. Now I am ... And you need to have that 30-second, that 60-second. You can have a 5-minute, but you want to be able to articulate it in that short period of time. The other thing is, Brenda, you just told us like 18 different Facebook posts, right? Every one of those benefits is a Facebook post. You're a drag racer? I mean, that's pretty darn crazy. I don't know if you've posted about that yet on Facebook, but that would be hilarious to see you in a little helmet with a smile on your face and ketones in your hand, a little selfie, and you're saying, OMG, can't believe I used to do this without ketones. Now I am, maybe you just won, or maybe you hit a personal best time or whatever it is.
Yeah,
like,
I did.
well, there you go. That's your next Facebook. So as you guys are watching and you're thinking through your own stories, every benefit, whether it's you're a happy mom today, whether it's you've lost, 50 pounds of fat, whether it's you have the energy to go work out and you haven't worked out in a decade, whether it's you haven't gained the quarantine 15, or maybe you just lost the quarantine 15, whatever that is, each of those individual slices can be a separate post. The biggest challenge is when we put them all into one post, the post doesn't have the same level of effectiveness. So I'm going to leave you with one thing, an action step. And Mitch, any last thoughts before I give this action step?
Yeah, I would encourage people to really stretch themselves, because there is something super powerful, even in social, especially in social media, to be able to take one aspect or one story and do it as alive, to be able to go out and like tell your story so people can actually, they can see you, they can feel you, they can get your energy, they can hear the inflection in your voice. Sometimes that doesn't always come across in a stagnant written out post. So move fluidly between the two to be able to tell them, because the beauty is you can tell that story, like just as an example, you can tell the drag racing story in a text format, and then a week later you can do a live on it, and you're going to reach new people, and people who've heard it before are going to even hear it differently because you're the way you're presenting it. So,
Awesome.
Just move around with it.
So here's my challenge to everybody on here, and kind of an action step out of this Zoom, is I want you to share your story, right? And you can start by sharing it with somebody that you care about, whether it's a spouse, mom, a dad, sister, brother, or something. But share it with your team. Like, share it with, if you're in a chat, voice message that thing to a chat. Or if you really want to be brave, videotape it or record it and share it. Share it with your sponsor, share it with whoever you're working with, and just work on getting comfortable sharing that, because the more that you're comfortable with yourself and talking about what this has done for you, the more people that you're going to impact. And the more confidence you have around that, the stronger and the more energy will come off with your story, which will allow it to have an even greater impact. So thanks so much, Debra and Cameron and Terry and Diana, for sharing with us tonight. It's really powerful to hear you guys. It's amazing. I think we definitely went 30 minutes longer than we were planning, but I think those stories are probably the most powerful part of the whole Zoom. So I'm glad that we did. And Mitch, thank you for being on here and imparting your wisdom with us, and appreciate all of you. It's been an amazing month so far, and we're just getting started. So have an awesome night, guys. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.